Marfoogle News live in 3. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. So if you followed our show, then you know we've been talking a lot about, of course, China and Russia, and, of course, the world is, right? Everybody's talking about World War III. Well, the thing is there are some things that are unstoppable. I don't believe that this is the end of the world. I think this is the beginning of a new one, and it is something that is inevitable. As far as the training that is going on, it really shows you exactly what they expect. It is something that we have heard from military members in our audience time and time again. As far as this goes, since the Panama Canal fiasco, where essentially we said we are going to protect it, we're going to take us and our allies, and we're going to make sure that it is ours, now there is even further evidence that we are absolutely going to keep it in any way possible. U.S. military trains to defend the Panama Canal from China threat. Again, the United States is trained for the defense of the Panama Canal during a joint exercise with the Central American country amid concerns over China's growing presence in the region. The exercise, codenamed Panama X Alpha Phase 1 and scheduled from July 13th to 18th, is designed to reinforce preparation for threats to the security of the Panama Canal. They're essentially training for any kind of event where China tries to take it from them, right? We already clarified that they had troops there, that they had people stationed there, that they had, and in fact, there was folks that came out and kind of said it right after the initial fiasco that they totally took control of it, and that they were, the U.S. had already taken control of this thing. The Pentagon's chief warning follows U.S. President Donald's claim that China operates the Panama Canal, a waterway vital to global trade. The canal, which the U.S. built, connects the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans, has been under Panama's control since 1999. Facing pressure from the Trump administration, Hong Kong-based CK Hutchinson agreed in March to sell its stake in Panama's ports at the canal's Pacific and Atlantic entrances to American-led consortium, which they don't really, if for some reason they don't bring up that it was going to be to BlackRock, which is kind of funny. But again, it is a huge deal, and it is something that could very well be one of the hot points of World War III. I believe it will be. It is a port that a lot of money goes through, and money equals power. Now, before we move forward, again, we're going to show you tons and tons of just stories in the last 48 hours that absolutely show you that things are not going to get better before they get worse. So I hope that people are preparing for some of the likely scenarios. One of the most likely, as far as if we ever do get attacked here in the United States, it would most likely to be go after our grid. Our grid is the foundation for everything. Our grid is the foundation for all of our infrastructure, and that is why exactly they would go after it. Again, this is a device that would protect your cars from, of course, an EMP strike or a CME, a coronal mass ejection from the sun. But not only that, they make devices for your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, pretty much anything that runs, including solar generators in the case of the Energy and, of course, the Max EP. And then, of course, you also have the home version, which will basically turn your home into the baddest of the bad as far as surge protectors. So you'll never have to buy one of those expensive surge protectors you plug into. Your entire house turns into that. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. Again, that's marfooglenews.com/EMP, and make sure to use code MARF for $50 off per device, and that actually combines with any of the sales that they're doing. All right, let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So there is a claim that Putin's soldiers were taken out in a certain way. How was that, and what is the claim? How are they taken out?
Yeah, they're saying at least 4 soldiers have said to have perished in excruciating pain after drinking from bottles labeled "Our Water," allegedly supplied to the front line in a humanitarian consignment. The suggestion now is that maybe Ukraine used this as a mechanism to poison the troops, so to speak. So several others have said to be in critical condition, and another major blow to Mad Vlad's invasion of Ukraine, as the writer says. But the incident, which unfolded in the Panteleimonic area of Donetsk, has sparked a horror and fury across pro-Kremlin military channels. So there's some pretty distressing footage, they say, showing the poisoned troops and asking, obviously going through some excruciating pain as they're perishing. So this is very much reminds me of the incident with Israel and Lebanon with the pagers that were sabotaged. So in this case, they're sabotaging water being brought in by for the frontline troops from a I guess a humanitarian style organization.
And as far as that goes, that could be a fantastic Freddy on their own right to essentially say that Ukraine did that. Ukraine and NATO has been saying that they are expecting that Putin is increasing their use of chemicals and chemical weapons and things like this. This is a back and forth that we don't know what is truth and what is operation, what is propaganda. But at the same time, you can see in the messaging that both sides are kicking up that they are doing increasingly horrible things that really any civilian in either country is going to go, well, absolutely, we have to take these guys out. Look at what they're capable of doing. Look at the things that they're doing to our men and women in uniform. I mean, think about that if that was 4 U.S. soldiers somewhere and we were fighting any country. People would be red in the eyes and they'd be absolutely pissed that it happened. And I'm sure that it would be something that we would not forget. And then Russia threatens West with preemptive strikes as NATO looks to deliver Patriots, quote, as quickly as possible. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said Moscow should consider launching preemptive strikes against the West and U.S. and NATO allies, ratchet up defense support for Ukraine. The statements of Western politicians on this topic are complete nonsense, Medvedev said. We need to act accordingly and respond in full, and if necessary, launch preemptive strikes. So the comments that he's talking about, I actually have, many of you have heard these comments. NATO is saying that Russia is going to strike, that Russia is doing all of these things, that they are going to take over NATO. And whether they are or not, they essentially are put in the spot where increasingly NATO and Mark Rutte, the leader, one of the main head of NATO, is saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. Russia is going to take NATO, China is going to take Taiwan, and they're going to all do it simultaneously. Like this will all happen all at once, which goes along with what I thought was going to happen. And I don't think it's going to happen because I think Russia's trying to do it. Or that this is happening. I think that that's the messaging no matter what, that this is going to be pushed into happening whether, Russia wants to do it or not. Because now, look, they're backed into a corner again, and they're essentially saying that they are going to take over. They could say, okay, well, we'll just not do it. But then a Fantastic Freddy event could happen and make it look like they did it anyways. So, yeah. Things like this, it's Medvedev. Medvedev always talks like this. Dex, Medvedev says stuff like this. I guess this time is a little bit different, though. Like, it's not Medvedev saying, well, we should just nuke them all across. He is stating what they're saying is now we have to act because look at what they're doing.
Well, exactly. And I don't think that they're happy with the fact that we're putting potential long-range missiles in there. I don't think that they're happy that we're continuing to add more weapons in, and because they've been making such great strides and they've had the upper edge for the most part. I mean, doesn't mean Ukraine hasn't put a hit on them, especially with the strikes on the bases and the nuclear bombers and things like that. But as far as on the ground, it seems like they've just had more wins than losses.
And Medvedev is the former president. It's kind of crazy to see them sitting side by side. This is the former president and the current president of Russia, essentially talking about preemptive strikes. Now, whether you believe it or not, look at what is happening in the world. Look at what is being pushed. Look at what the events are showing. I mean, it's one thing after another, and it's not stopping. Follow us on our next show, which is right after this. If you're in chat, you can just stay here. You'll be ported over. Again, we're going to talk about swarms of herd wolves. These things will not only, one will breach your house, one will take you out, and one will essentially surveil while doing it. These things are going in packs now. We'll show you that and much, much more. China is preparing for something massive. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. If you're watching the replay, all you have to do to get to that video is click here. We'll see you in a few minutes. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.